It's 2024, it's time for a war!
Hello, everyone. Brendon back at you once again for another mix breakdown. But before I get started, if you could do some or all of that stuff that's on the screen right now, that would really be cool. I'd sure appreciate it. I'm not going to belabor that, but whatever you can do, that would be awesome. So we had a song come out today, a song called Time for a War. And I was getting ready to do a mix breakdown for you. And I am going to do a mix breakdown. I'm going to do an abbreviated mix breakdown because while I was going through this, I discovered that there's a lot of stuff going on in this mix where I'm using not free plugins, but I probably could be using free plugins. So I'm going to give you just a quick run through of this thing. And then over the next few days, I'm going to make several videos, one going through the drums and my approach to kind of making drums a little bigger. I want to do one on specifically the guitars. I want to show you a bunch of free plugins that you could use to do something similar, with free plugins. And then I want to get into the bass because one of the things that I discovered on this mix was that there might be a better way to do it. So I thought maybe we could do that together and you could watch. Now, something I used to not say in the beginning of these videos because I thought it was assumed. I just want to get out of the way right away. These videos are not tutorials. I just want to show you how I do stuff. Because if you're like Repo Man and you're making your music and putting it out there, totally DIY, watching somebody else's approach might be helpful. You can take what I show you and you can change it to your needs, or you can use what I show you completely, or you can go in the comments and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. Whatever. Not a tutorial, just showing you how I did this. So let's get started. Let's start with the drums. So if I solo the drums, you can hear some of this. And how that fits in the mix is like this. There's a vocal pickup at the beginning.
It's 2024, it's time for a war! Gather round, it's time.
Okay, so what happened right there is the first thing I want to talk about. And I'm going to go ahead and expand these drums out. And I want to show you, if you look at this channel and this channel, you can see that I have two different snare drums. And I'm going to solo those really quick because I want you to see what's going on. So when we're in that intro section, we've got no vocal happening. We've got this snare happening. It's bright, super compressed, really, really hitting. And then when we get into the verse and Mike starts singing, we go to this more subdued snare. Okay, so I'm going to play those back to back so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And when you hear them back to back, it might be easier to hear what's going on. So here's the intro snare. So you can hear that subdued snare helps to kind of change the audience focus to the vocal. If I include the vocal, here we go.
Gather round, it's time for a war. If we try, we can.
Super subtle, but that's a thing. Then when we get into the actual chorus, the song breaks down to halftime.
It's about time for a war. It's about time for a war.
We're using the hype snare again. But we've got an additional room mic. So here are the normal room mics. Tons of low mid, pretty far away sounding, got a pretty good room sound going there. But then in that chorus part, I'm adding in this other room mic, which is more compressed and has a little bit of distortion. And it's turned way down, so I'm going to turn it up so you can really hear it. Versus the normal room. So all that's really doing is just adding some excitement to the drums in that part and maybe bringing up the room sound a little bit. That's really what I'm trying to do. And so if we listen to that section of the song,
It's about time for a war. It's about time for a war. It's about time for a war. It's about time for a war.
so again, super subtle, but hopefully that's adding a little bit of weight to the drums right there. And again, I want to get into a deeper video where I can show you all of these effects I'm using on the bus and stuff. But one of my New Year's resolutions, I know it's not the new year yet, but one of my New Year's resolutions is to make shorter videos. So in the interest of making a shorter video, I'm not going to get into that right now. However, like I said, I'm going to do a detailed video about the drums. I don't know if you guys watched any of the I Can See Clearly Now videos, but I did a drum one, a bass one, a guitar one, and a vocal one, and I want to do that again with this because I think this song is a pretty good example. Getting into the vocals, not much to show you here except that for a change, I tried something different, and that is that I tried automation before the effects. So why is that important? If I show you this compressor,
Gather round, it's time for a war. If we try, we can take it to 3 front.
and you can see that we're really getting a ton of compression there. We're getting actually, let me make this a little bigger so we can see what's up. No, not what I wanted. Not what I wanted. Now we're talking.
Gather round, it's time for a war. If we try, we can.
Okay, so you can see we're getting like minus 10 dB of gain reduction, which is fine. I'm it's pretty common for me to compress the snot out of vocals, but at certain points in these phrases, we would be just burying the needle.
Gather round, it's time for a war. If we try, we can take it to 3 fronts.
I'm holding it right there at minus 10 because I did this automation before the vocal. So anytime we had this transient, you can see that spike sticking up there. Anytime we have a transient like that, I just pulled it down a little bit, and it makes us not bury the needle on the compressor.
Gather round, it's time for a war. If we try, we can take it to 3.
So that's something different. Again, I'm going to make a video where I'm going to show you that in detail. The vocal for the rest of the way is just kind of your basic Repo Man vocal. I've got a sidechain delay going, so if I solo this vocal,
Gather round, it's time for a war. If we
and when I push stop, you can hear that echo. If I mute the sidechain delay,
gather round, it's time for a war. If we try, we can take it to 3 fronts.
you can hear how dry that is. This.
Gather round, it's time for a war. If we try, we can take it to 3 fronts.
Again, super subtle, but that's a thing. When I get into the vocal video, actually, I have a video about setting up sidechain delay, but when I get into the vocal video, maybe we'll do a quick refresher on that. And then there's just some volume automation on the vocal. And then we've got a reverb throw in this one section. Let me solo this again.
It's about time for a war.
You can hear that. I'll show you how to do that too in the vocal video. Backing vocals, and here's where you have to listen to my horrible caterwauling. So I apologize in advance for that. Not much to see here other than if I solo this, you will notice that there's very little low end.
If we don't do something, gonna kill us all. Nobody's gonna survive.
There's also this low whisper track.
If we don't do something, gonna kill us all.
It's kind of fun. But the point is,
If we don't do something, gonna kill us all.
that soloed, you'd be like, wow, there's just like no low end in that. But the point is that it's just meant to accompany the actual vocal. So here's the two together.
If we don't do something, gonna kill us all. Nobody's gonna survive.
So you can hear without it.
Don't do something, gonna kill us all.
Vocal is the focus. Then with mine in the background in super stereo.
Don't do something, gonna kill us all. Nobody's gonna survive.
Sauce on the top. That's what I'm going for. And all together.
Don't do something, gonna kill us all. Nobody's gonna survive. Don't do something that can kill us all. And nobody's gonna be alive.
So that's the vocals. Look forward to a video on that if you're interested. The guitars, again, are a topic that I really want to dig into, but you can see that I've got a bunch of handoffs with similar sounds, but more gain, less gain, palm muted, not palm muted, depending on the part of the song. So you can see in the intro, I've got this bit. Again, not a lot of low end in this. We're really letting the bass do that. Then when we get into the verse, there's palm mutes and it's gained down a little bit. You can definitely hear that's more of a, like you're really just hearing the tonic, where here you're actually hearing a, actual strums. And then in the chorus, I just have a slightly different sound, even again, just to work for the chorus. All that together.
It's about time for a war. It's about time for a war. It's about time for a war. It's about.
So anyway, the topic of handoffs is something I don't hear a lot of people talk about. I mean, I hear me talk about it. I've talked about it in other videos, but when we get into the guitars, I want to make a point of talking about handoffs, why I use them, what it keeps me from having to do in terms of automation, and the way that it allows you to use different sounds between different parts. You could do everything that I'm doing with handoffs with automation, but it would be a pain in the butt. So that's why I use handoffs. And then there's another guitar bus which has just some super simple stuff. So like in the intro, we've got another guitar bit, and that is yet even a different sound. And if I solo this bus, you can hear that. Along with the main guitars. Without it. With it. Just a lower single note part, da 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 da, much like the bass line, quite frankly. And then this part was something that Mike really wanted, which is fine, but it's this extra little high part. In fact, let me solo that so you can hear it. So that's probably pretty hard to hear, but basically we're going. All together. Again, super subtle here, guys. And gals. So we just basically have the intro riff, and then this little thing comes in right at the end just to push it over the edge. Again, that was an idea that Mike specifically had. So anyway, when I make the guitar video, which will be in the next few days, we'll dig deeper into how I have all that mixed up and where I have everything in the stereo field, if you're interested. The bass is a specifically important topic that I want to spend more time on in a dedicated video, because I did this way, but I think I found a better way to do it. So I want to show you that. But if I pull up the mixer, you can see that I have two parts. I've got this bass clean part. And then I have a sub part. And unfortunately, I can't solo the sub part because, anyway, I'm going to mute the sub part, and you can hear the bass. Here we go. Now, when I unmute this, you're going to hear just a little bit more low end in the really deep part of the low end. Whoops. So I'm going to turn this on and off. I'm going to start with it muted, and I'm going to turn it on and off, and you can tell the difference. And again, guys, this is super subtle, but here we go. It just gives it this little bitty sub push. That's all I'm going for. And I've got it going through this API Vision channel strip, which is adding a lot of grit to it. And again, there are free plugins with which you can do that, and I want to show you that. So when I do the bass video, I want to show you my new, better way to do what I did here. And then I also want to show you how to do it with some free plugins. Reverb is pretty straightforward. Repo Man reverb. And the only other thing, well, there's two other things really. I've got these extra buses, which is a rear bus that just is everything except the drums. It's meant to bring up the RMS level of the track. I've got this air bus, which adds a little bit of air on the top. So if I roll this and I mute that, you'll hear the super top high end go away. So when it's red, you'll hear it gets slightly darker. And when it's not red, you'll hear that super top come back. It makes the guitars a little fizzier. That's kind of where I'm hearing it, and I'm hearing a little more space around the drums. I don't know what you're listening on. If you're on headphones, you might be able to hear that. If you're on your high-end studio monitors, you can probably hear it. But it, again, super subtle. You'll notice a theme, I think, with that. Everything I'm doing is just adding just another couple of percent. And then the last thing of those three things at the end that I was mentioning is the guitar VCA. And when we get into the guitars, I'll show you what this does. Basically, it's a volume control for all the guitars. But what's cool about that is you can see, if I get rid of the mixer, you can see down here at the bottom, I'm automating that. So I can automate all of the guitars with that one fader. And the astute among you will ask, well, why don't you just automate the guitar buses? And that's a really good question. And there is an answer. And that answer, the short version of that answer is that there's already automation on those guitar buses. And rather than adjusting that, I just have an overall automation for the guitars that doesn't interfere with the automation that's already on the guitars. So, for instance, if I want to turn down the guitars, all of them, I can do it with this fader, and all the automation on these two buses stays the way it is. So as those are going up and down, according to their specific automation, and as they're panning left and right, according to their specific automation, all that's still happening. I just can then add another layer of automation. Anyway, VCAs are not as necessary in Reaper because Reaper has some pretty elegant automation, but I don't want to get into that. I want to show you techniques that you can use in any DAW, and particularly if you're using Pro Tools, VCAs are really handy. And when we get into the guitar video, that's another thing I want to delve into. On the bus, a couple of things going on. So this is the stereo bus now. This is everything's going through this. I've got a little a high shelf where I'm taking down everything just a tiny little bit above like 250. I've got a multi-bus compressor, which I'm not going to get too deep into, but just suffice it to say that this tightens up the low end. So I'm only compressing the low part of the whole mix, and what that does, depending on the threshold and the attack and release, I can tighten up the low end. And the effect of it is, without this, the low end, and I'm talking the real low end, I'm talking 80 hertz and below, right? Without this, that sounds like boo. And once this is on, that sounds like so it has rhythm, right? Instead of just it it has rhythm to match the song. Seems like a dumb thing, seems like a really subtle thing, but it really works. Unfortunately, without you being here with me, I don't know that you're going to be able to hear that. I've got this goofy compressor. The trick to this is it's doing very little. You can see the gain reduction there. And you can see my my ratio is only 2-to-1. I do have the mix all the way up, but if this was less of an aggro song, I might even turn the mix down a little bit. But yeah, you can see we're just kissing the needle here. Not even a dB of gain reduction. And we're going into your basic G-bus compressor. It's getting between 3 and 4 dB of compression. And then I've got this tape emulator thing. So, oh, and I should say that's adding another slight bit of compression. Tape saturation, to be exact. Tape saturation is kind of a weird type of compression. Anyway, the point to all this, there is a way where I can highlight these three things. And I can turn them all on and off at one time. So I'm going to roll the track, and you'll see these check marks turn on and off. When they're on, hopefully you'll hear the mix get just a little bit wider and a little bit fatter. So here we go.
Gather round, it's time for a war. If we try, we can take it to 3 fronts and more. Howitzers coming out production lines. Ain't these wonderful?
All right, so hopefully you heard that. I am noticing a slight jump in volume, so that might be skewing what you're hearing, but I promise you it is getting a little wider. And then I've just got a volume adjustment. I'm not using a limiter or anything like that because we are going to mastering after this, and maybe I'll make a video on the mastering too, but that's the whole thing. So look forward to more videos, one on the drums and my approach to making the drums a little more exciting. I'm going to do a video about the vocals where I really get into all of the compression and limiting that I'm doing on the vocal and the EQ. You might be surprised at how much low end I'm usually taking out of a vocal. I want to talk about the backup vocals and how I'm doing the stereo spread, so that'll be in that video too. I want to do a deep dive on guitars, and I want to show you some free plugins that you can use to do pretty much the same thing. And then I want to get into the bass, and I want to show you kind of a better way to do what I'm doing here. So look forward to all that, and I look forward to seeing you. Once again, if you could do some or all of what's on the screen right now, I'd really appreciate it. Go listen to Time for a War. It sounds like this.
It's 2024, it's time for a war.